I never dreamed in a million years that I would be on the 7 o'clock slot. You know, I grew up watching Paul Holmes, Susan Wood, Mark Sainsbury, and I never thought that would ever be a show I'd be on. So it was quite surreal to be getting offered the 7 o'clock slot. And I also didn't know whether we would be able to turn it around because there was a lot of negative sentiment towards the 7 Sharp show as well. And I thought, oh, God, you know. But I felt like I had to say yes to it, and I knew I would need a really strong person to do it with, and I think Mike Hosking was absolutely the right person because...
Yeah, what stage did that relation get put together? Are they like, you're going to be on 7 Sharp, you're doing it with Mike?
No, they said, we want you to be on it, who do you want to host with? And I actually said at the time, I feel like there's only 2 people that can turn this around for you guys, and it's either Mike Hosking or Paul Henry. I felt really strongly about that because I felt like they needed someone, a reason to watch.
Yep.
And whether you love or loathe Paul and Mike, they were appointment type viewing, right? And I remember them saying to me at the time, oh, that's not going to happen. They'll be too expensive. And then Mike got the job. So I don't know what happened there. But, and obviously they had to want to work with me. So I was lucky that Mike wanted to.
Had you met him or crossed paths with him? Like, what was your interactions with him before you sitting on a couch at 7 o'clock?
No, I didn't know him. I knew his wife, Kate Hawkesby, because she'd worked at TVNZ. Briefly, we had some crossover. She was hosting the late news when I was there. It's not true. Mike had been in the newsroom filling in for Close Up for Mark Sainsbury before, so I'd had some pleasantries passing by, but I didn't know him at all. But I just knew that he was the type of person that people would turn into, and I also knew that I needed someone to offset how I was going to be. You know, you don't want 2 people the same. And I knew we needed someone that was going to be possibly a bit controversial, that people were going to love or loathe, because I felt like my job was going to be to bring the warmth and hopefully the positive vibes.
That's so cool that you know your strengths going into a role like that, and to be able to advocate for what is going to work.
Yeah, and I didn't think they'd get Mike to do it. So I was really pleased when they came back and said that he was going to host the show, because I had a feeling we would have good chemistry.
Yeah, I just watched the interview of the last show you did together at the end of the 4 years, and he got quite emotional at the end, and he called you guys the best duo in broadcasting.
I love it. Rate yourself.
But I wondered how you reflect on working with Mike. What is he like to work with? What is his method? How did you guys sort of figure it out?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know what to expect. I remember being a young reporter in the newsroom and thinking every time he filled in on Close Up, I felt like it was a really good show. So I knew he had that serious kind of edge to his news that I think 7 Sharp needed, because I felt like it had gone too far away from why people liked Close Up. So I knew he had that. I knew he had rated well. And the moment I met him, like, he is a no-frills kind of character. You know, he was also on Newstalk ZB, so he was working double shifts. So he'd said yes to this, and that meant he was going to be getting up at 3 a.m. and then he was going to be coming at night. So he wanted to get in, do his job. He doesn't like any faff, none of the touchy-feely stuff, which is probably what I bring. So I found him really straightforward to work with. I knew where I stood with Mike. It would come to an interview and he'd go, do you want to do it? I don't mind. Like, he was very giving in that respect. And he's really funny in his sort of acerbic way. So I found him, he would absolutely take the mickey out of me. You know, like, I remember I was on a bit of a health kick and I had my carrot sticks and my little piece of, not the keto gummies. I had my carrot sticks and my little bottle of peanut butter, and he's like, do you reckon that's going to help you? And I'm like, well, it's better than me eating a donut. But I kind of enjoy that. And I come from a family that gives each other stick a lot. So I enjoy that. I feel like people have lost the ability to laugh at themselves and not take things personally. And you had to not take things personally with Mike, because he just threw them at you. But I loved that. I looked forward to my afternoons because I was like, what's he going to say now? He's so inappropriate. And at one stage, he's trolling you for your afternoon tea. The next minute, he's telling me about his bloody Gucci loafers and his new fragrance and what wine he's drinking that night. And I'm pretty sure he looked at me like, oh dear, you don't even know what my one is, because I'm like the basic girl from the farm. But we had that dynamic where I gave him stick for being a Remuera type, and he gave me stick for being the basic girl from the farm, and it worked. And I really enjoyed it. And he doesn't get on with everyone because Mike does his job and he doesn't have all the frills around the edges. But I found him really easy to get on with, and our relationship and chemistry was instant from the first photo shoot we went to.
He doesn't get on with everyone, but you get on with everyone. Like, it feels like is there anyone you don't get on with?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you've got that magic ability.
What I try to do, and I think this is why some of the duos I've worked with in broadcasting work, is I try and make the relationship work. And I think you have to, right? If you want a show to be successful, there has to be chemistry. And whatever it takes to make that chemistry as good as it can be, I feel like I'm quite happy to bend and mould to. You know, working with Mike Hosking was very different to working with Rawdon Christie, very different to working with Sam Wallace. You all have different dynamics, and you've just got to find what that commonality is and what that chemistry is going to be like. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy sort of changing and morphing to make it work.
Yeah. But with an underlying theme of warmth. That's the brand.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. And I don't think there's anyone that I don't get on with. I mean, there's people that I like more than others, of course. Yeah. But I don't know. Everyone's got a quality that you can bring out, right?
Very much so.
You're still in the same building with Mike at NZME?
Yes.
Are you guys still keep in touch? Do you bump into each other?
Do you know Mike Hosking?
Yeah.
He doesn't keep in touch with anyone.
No.
I used to text him on his birthday after 7 sharp, but then I changed phones and I kind of lost his number. So now if I want to get in touch with him, I DM Kate, his wife, and say, hey, will Mike do this? If I saw him now, we would catch up and we'd chat, and he'd ask how the kids are and I would ask how his are, but we don't catch up all the time.
All done in 2 minutes.
He's too busy. Yeah. He's too busy watering his, mowing his grass and cleaning his pool and watching the Warriors.
Yeah. So at the end, you're the one that leaves, right? Like it was your decision to leave, and then he sort of left as well. But what was behind your decision to get out?
Mine was a hard decision because I really liked being on that show, and we had a really good team as well, like a great bunch of reporters, great bunch of producers, and it felt like such a good fit with what I enjoyed doing as well, and it was quite straightforward. And the hours weren't punishing like when you do breakfast TV or radio. But I got 3.5 years in, and suddenly my daughter was about to start school, my eldest daughter. And I remember thinking, how's this going to work? I get to 7 sharp at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm not going to be there when she finishes school, whereas previously I would see her during the day. So I'm not going to be there at school pickup. And then I'm in a job that doesn't finish till 7:30. So by the time I get home, it's after 8. She's going to be in bed. So I'm not going to see my daughter apart from a tiny window in the morning. And actually, by then, I had started doing radio. I had started doing radio in the morning. So actually, I wasn't going to see her in the morning either. I was like, this is completely unacceptable. Like, I'm not going to cope. She'll probably be fine because she'll be with her dad and she'll be with, Nana and Granddad, but I'm not going to see her in the morning. I won't even be there to put her to bed. I was like, and I just remember feeling this, feeling like this is not going to work. Like something's going to have to change because I'm not going to cope. I want to see my daughter grow up, So I had to make a decision. It was either I gave up the radio that I'd been doing for a year, because by this point I'd been asked to do a radio show and I was doing it from home. So it was only kind of like just
dipping your toes in.
Just dipping my toes in. So, but then I thought, well, if I don't do the radio show, I'm still only going to see her for an hour in the morning as I drop her off at school. And then I'm still not going to see her after school, and I'm still not going to be putting her to bed. I'll see her on the weekends, and it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So that basically made the decision really clear to me. I actually went and saw one of those career counsellors. I had to talk it through because no one leaves primetime telly. You don't do that.
And you're New Zealand's TV Personality of the Year at that stage as well, right? 2017, you'd won that award.
Yeah, I had. Yeah, you're right.
So you're like peak of your powers.
Yeah, and kind of also, once you've bedded in a show and you're 3.5, 4 years in, it becomes so much easier. The hard graft is in those first 2 years where you're trying to find out the chemistry and you're trying to make it work. But we already had this great audience and it was working. So you're kind of coasting along at that point, and it's just everything's working and you get your routine with your kids and your family. So I was like, oh, am I really going to blow all this up? And what if I say no to this? And then that's just the end. That's just the end of my broadcasting career, and radio might not work out, and then TV doesn't want me back. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to do it, because the alternative is I'm not seeing my child, and that's not acceptable to me. So I went and talked to TVNZ and said, look, I think I can't do the late shift anymore. I can't do the 7 o'clock shift. And I think they were like, what do you mean? And that's just how it happened. And so I left and I stayed filling in on 7 Sharp, which was great because I was able to just keep my hand in. I think I filled in for about 4 years. And then I made the switch to radio. And then slowly now, after 6 years in radio, I feel like I'm finding my feet.